If you caught the previous video, I tried rebuilding this thing. Made it worse than it was before. Today we're going to try to fix that. Got to get that oil pan pulled off because I'm going to loosen the rod caps on the back side of these pistons. These pistons are supposed to go up and down when you turn the key. They do not. Suppose I could show you what it's doing. Just lightly set that there. Uh-huh. See, it's doing nothing. Okay. Science. Say, what are you gonna do with the oil in the jug there, Mike? Listen, I need you to not act surprised anymore, okay? So the oil pan on this tractor is part of the structure. So those two big bolts that come right underneath there, I gotta take out, and the oil pan comes off its cast. I will say this, it is amazing how much faster you are on the second time around. I mean, it makes sense, it's the second time you've done it, but it is quite a bit quicker. So if you do get to this point, you make a mistake, you got to redo some stuff. Don't be discouraged about it, even if it's something tricky. It'll take you no time at all. There we go. Rotate her out, set her on the jack. Should be able to pull it right out here. Beautiful. It's easy to lose things in the turf of the shop here. 11/16 on the rod bearing. Oh yeah, lucky. So, let me show you. So we got the rod bearings here, and I'm thinking either the ones I put in were not right. Well, I mean, something's wrong with the rod bearings. That's my guess. So here's my plan. I'm just going to loosen these. Not like take them all the way off. I'm just going to crack them loose off a torque and then see if the engine turns any easier. And if it does, then I'm just going to swap these new ones out with the old ones. It's a constant battle of trying to get a decent shot for you guys and you guys just being flat out in the way. You know that? And I don't want you to feel bad about it. I don't. I'm glad you're here. I just want you to be aware you bring a little stress to the relationship, okay? There we go. And I think that's going to be too deep for me to get. Well, two of them are loosened up. Let's see if that makes a difference. Now I got that one loosened up. They're all three loosened. Put the ground back on. I'm taking the ground off each time. Definitely don't want the ground on and the chance of that thing running. Well, all right. There you go, loosen the rod bearings. So that's what it is. We're gonna take those caps off. We're gonna throw the old ones on. Start cleaning everything up. I'm just gonna have to reuse the gaskets I have. They don't look bad. They're not damaged or anything from taking stuff off. They look pretty good. So I'm just gonna clean them off real gently, put everything back together, and then see if we can't get this thing to, I don't know what it's gonna do at this point. Pull it out. The old bearing fell out as I was tapping on it. We'll put the new bearing in, drop it in, reassemble everything. Got everything laid out. A little block of wood, dead blow, assembly grease, set of bearings, torque wrench set to the right torque setting, which is 60 to 65 foot-pounds or pound-foots or whatever. I'm not going to make everybody rewatch the reassembly of this engine. Everybody's already seen it go together once. If you haven't, there's a link in the description. Strongly encourage you to check it out. I'll put the previous video so you can see how the cylinders and the pistons and everything went back in and the compression ring worked and how I got that together. And I'll put a playlist so you can see how we got this in the first place from Clint from CNC Equipment. So a lot of stuff to catch up on if you're new to the channel. If you're not new to the channel, it's like I had a thought to go with that and then it just, there it went, gone. All right, it is a new day. Got everything or got all that back to where we were about 2 o'clock yesterday. It's always a fine line of how long can I keep working and when do I have to go start getting some editing done. But I had to get a video out. But I felt like we were at a good stopping point for a video. So I went over and got some editing done, got you a video wrapped up about midnight last night. hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you're back watching on this one. Let's get these valves adjusted and see if we can't do some more on this. So one thing I was thinking about, I'm not 100% sure on, since it is a 201, okay? A 201 is what they put in the 555 originally, and they put it in dozens of different tractors. But since this is a later version of a 201, compared to what was initially in here, we see you down there. I'm wondering if these are going to be the same, because I'm using all the specs for the year of the Backhoe. And you may notice I sound a little cruddy. That's because I do believe I have what the girls in Chelsea had. So now it's my turn, and that's fine. I actually don't feel bad, just a little bit, a little slower than normal, which shouldn't be a surprise to any of you guys. I am glad I got the head lifted on and the oil pan up yesterday. So exhaust valves, lash clearance, cold. We're looking at 17 thousandths to 21 thousandths. And I don't have a 17 in my set, so we're just going with 18 thousandths. And on the intake, we're looking at 14 to 18 thousandths. So we'll just go on the 14 thousandths. Now there are tons of videos on how to do valve lashings online, and I would not take this as a how-to, and there's going to be lots of people that don't like the way I do it, but we're going to be okay. It is a 3-cylinder diesel, so my understanding is, here, I got 2 open, or 2 of them closed right here, which means this should be on the compression stroke. It means I should have an exhaust and an intake open or closed on another one. I've got an intake closed on that one. Those are both open to some extent. So if I can wiggle it on the rocker arm, then that means the spring's holding the tension. That means the valve is closed. So exhaust open, intake closed, exhaust closed. So there's our 2 opposing. Intake open, you can see how much that's pushed down. Exhaust closed, intake closed. There's a lot going on there. So I've got my 2 opposing and 1 whole cylinder, and I'm going to run it like that. These are interference fit, meaning there's no tightening nut or jam nut or anything like that. They're just made to be tight. So intake lines up with the intake, exhaust lines up with the exhaust. The intake was 0.04, and I mean there's like a whole party in there. You don't need something this big to turn it, but it just makes it a little bit easier, at least in my mind it does. Getting pretty close there, getting just a little bit of drag. Okay. Feels pretty good, just a little bit of drag there. Then we can go ahead and run the exhaust on this one. Double checking I got the right ones. So this is aftermarket. You could get the OEM one, but it kind of helps me tell where the piston's at. Go through the injector hole. See how low down that cylinder is? That cylinder's right there. So the height of the injector plus the dish, we're pretty close to top dead center of the compression stroke, I would think. Well, that's the way I'm doing it. If it's wrong or right, we're going to find out at some point, because we're going to try to fire this by the end of this video. So stay tuned to find out if we have another failure. I'm down here, fellas. There's also marks on the flywheel. If you want to get down, you should be able to turn the flywheel pretty easy with the pry bar. And there should be marks on the flywheel that tell you where they are at. And I could do that too. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna do it like all the farmers I watched on YouTube, because I trust farmers. I just, you know. So these are set, and we did exhaust intake. Should give me the exhaust. Yep, intake. Negative yet. I'm watching for this intake to come up. When that intake comes up, I should be able to do this exhaust. There. So on the back side of that stroke, Or that one's just that far out. It might just be that far out. I'm not getting any play off of it. So you're watching the valve on that intake open, letting air into the cylinder, comes up, that valve should be closed. Should have play right there. But I don't. I think that one's just that far out. Man. I think this one's just that far out of whack, honestly, on the intake. Yeah, I think so, because, okay, exhaust, intake, exhaust. Yeah. Let's see if this exhaust shows. Should show 0.08, and it's perfect. That's the one we already adjusted. So I think this intake's just that far out of adjustment. I'm gonna run around a couple more times and just kind of double check. Make sure we're sitting where we need to sit. Cylinder is right there. Pretty close top dead center, I would say. So if my theory is right, both of these are closed, which should be compression stroke. Cylinder is right there. Now in theory, we've already adjusted everything, so we're just double checking. A little bit of drag on the intake. A little drag on the exhaust, and this should be this intake. She's a little snug, but adjusted. We'll tweak her just a little bit. A little drag on that exhaust. So I'm just going to tweak that one just a little bit, and we should be golden. Valve cover gasket, nothing fancy. It's just a little cork gasket. On a valve rocker cover bolts, it says 10 to 15 foot-pounds. Okay. So next we're going to do the thermostat up on the front. There's the housing. We're going to clean that up just a little bit. Oh yeah, we're getting there. Looking good. I also took a wire wheel and a drill, cleaned up those threads real well on there. If the threads are dirty, it's going to be harder to turn, and a little common sense tells you it's going to torque out too early, and we're not going to get the right pressure we need on that gasket to seal. There we go. We'll go ahead and slide this hose on here. All right. And this little feller's next. Oh, it's confirmed. You can, if you want to. You don't have to. But if you want to put this in backwards, you can do that. Super easy to do. Not an issue at all if you want to do that. There we go. All right. Now we got to get this back up in here and installed. And it's still got the belt on. It's an AC compressor. I'm sure it works great. So AC compressor's on there. I'm gonna hook the battery up and turn it just to make sure she still turns okay and that That'll kind of tell us if the AC compressor is dragging at all, but looks like it's not an issue. Take that ground wire back off. So I was able to get this all painted up with some rust reformer and high temp paint when it was still warmer out. We're just gonna have to cut this off and redo the whole exhaust at some point when we do it. But we'll at least go ahead and get this on. And this end's pretty well cleaned off. We got a little something going on here, but I think we'll be okay. Take too much off, we just got to get a new one. Are we gonna match up here? Oh gosh, there we got her. How long has this power cable been in your view? Y'all got to spin around. Somebody commented on one of the videos, if the loader arms it up, it'd be easier. It would, you're right, but you know, the whole not running thing is the real catch there, bud. This needs to spin around. I guess we can do it like that. I just got to make sure those are out of the way when we put the fuel tank on. Let's go ahead and slip the injectors in since we got this drizzle and get those holes covered up. A lot of people asked if I was going to work with area diesel service with the injection pump and the injectors. I just ordered some aftermarket injectors on eBay. Listen, I feel terrible about it. I really do, because they actually reached out maybe like a day after I purchased injectors. They were all excited about it, and I just spaced, honestly. I wish I would have sent my old injectors off to them to get rebuilt. As far as the pump goes, I described to him what the pump was doing, and he says it sounds like the pump's working. There's fuel coming out, and there's fuel coming out the rail in 1, 2, 3 in the correct firing orders, coming out in a sequence. He said if it's doing that, then everything internal on that pump is doing what it's supposed to do, but if you have any problems, call us. They do have a YouTube channel. Clint's used them before on CNC equipment. They're Perfect's used them before. Watch Wet's Work has used them before. Tractor Time with Tim has used them before. They've done a lot of awesome projects, and they've got their own YouTube channel, Area Diesel Service. I'll put a link in the description. They did spend quite a bit of time. Kurt spent quite a bit of time on the phone with me, just kind of running through the pump and trying to make a decision on what to do. So they did help me out quite a bit. Here's the new injectors I got. Did come with new cork, came with new crush rings, which are actually already on here for the fuel rail, and then one that actually goes down in the hole. All right, just go set them all in there, and then we'll get the bolts in. Okay. Okay. Get them snug both down so we're not pulling crazy. And we'll torque it. Beautiful. We're gonna do the intake manifold next. I'm gonna take it over to the house on my benchtop belt sander. Just clean that up a little bit. It doesn't need much, just kind of needs a little bit of that surface rust taken off. Oh, we got that cleaned up. It's a lot better than what it was. Probably should have just sent this in whenever I took the head in to have it surfaced as well. But here we are, you know, we're past that point. I had loosened those so I could get it on the sander. How did those even go? Okay, come on. You're hurting. You're not helping there, fellas. So I've got the fuel system for the most part put back on. I got the fuel filters on here. I got to snug those down. Everything hooked up here. We've got to torque that down for the fuel return line. We got all the lines and everything on the injector hooked up. I want to go ahead and put the alternator on. I'm not going to hook any of the wires up on the alternator to fire it up today, or try to fire it up today. But I just need that on to hold the daggone belt up out of the way for me. Goes right here on the front. Right above the water pump. It's got one big bolt that goes through here, catches that bracket, and then there's a small bolt over here. Book shows 5 to 7 foot-pounds on these. And I did put new copper crush washers on there. There's one on the bottom and one on top. So before I throw the fuel tank up here, ratchet strap it to the back and run some lines down and try this rig out, I want to go ahead and change the hydraulic filter. It's a paper filter, so there's a chance that thing's all in pieces. I don't want anything to get sucked through the lines. And the whole reason they told Clint that they parked this was because of a hydraulic pump issue. Hydraulic pump's right there, the tank's right there. So we're also going to take a look at this tank, and there's a screen inside of here I want to look at too. Kind of curious what comes out here fluid wise. What it looks like. So we left part of the filter in there. There's the top part. There's a filter in there. Looks like they got a pressure mechanism that pushes up on the top and the bottom to close that out. So when you change the filter, you don't drain your whole system. That's kind of clever. I'm gonna see if I can get that out of there. Grab hold of it. Yeah. I want to. Now, is that part of the filter housing or another filter? Upon further inspection, this too is the top to a filter housing. So, there we go. $86. So these are like this, right? Obviously that's not right. That's probably why the hydraulic fluid looks as dirty as it does, because the filter probably wasn't doing what the filter is supposed to do. Let's slide the new one on. If we get this thing up and running, we're gonna have to, probably do an immediate service like after 10 hours or something like that. With the filter incorrect, it makes me wonder how much dirt is on that screen up there, because they obviously weren't filtering anything. I'm gonna put some coolant in it real quick though, while we don't forget. Just throwing some 50-50 in. Plus, if it comes shooting out anywhere, we know we missed something obvious. And they do make different coolants for different applications, and I should probably throw some orange in here, especially a little bit more heavier duty here. And they do make coolants for different engines. It does say for diesel in here. Honestly, I should probably put some orange in here and run that, but you got to keep in mind everything we're putting in right now is probably going to be out in the next 10, 15, 20 hours. We're just getting it started. I got to pull that intake back off. It's a little leak. It's right out of the bottom of the heater hose there, or where the heater hose comes out, but I got to pull it off. So here's your example of bad prep work causing problems. I told myself that was going to be good enough, and that's where it was leaking. We're going to clean it up some more. I tell you what I might actually do. I think I might just drop this off at the machine shop that did the head and see if they can't run it real quick. A little bit of an improvement. This is the end it's leaking on. It's just kind of odd too. If that was between those two bolts, which I know it kind of depends where it comes out on the head, it'd probably seal up better if it was right between those two bolts. And I just went ahead and made my own gasket. It's super easy to do this. I find a ball peen hammer works best for doing this. The only thing you got to watch, they make different material for different things. This one's approved for coolant, which is good because where that heater hose goes right there. So make sure if you do it, you get, you know, the right material. But super easy to do if you don't want to wait for shipping. Let's pour some water down here, see if it comes out again, huh? So I can see the coolant right about there, which is obviously higher than that. So we'll give that a chance to do its thing, see if it leaks or not. While we're waiting on that, let's go ahead and drain this hydraulic tank so we can take there's a screen right up in here. We'll take a gander at that screen. So I ended up just taking a screw out right here, and it was running all the way out. We're empty now, and then I just kind of let it do that passively. It took, I don't know, there probably was close to 10 gallons in there, honestly. But while I was doing that, they gave me time to get the fuel tank on. Fuel lines hooked back up, with the exception of up to here, because we're going to have to prime to there. Went ahead and checked the power steering fluid, which is right in here, and it's got some in it, so that's as good as we're going to get on there. And then check the transmission fluid there. And it has some, so that's the standard for this. It's got some fluid. And we're still going to lose some, obviously, as we take this out, but at least not quite as much. I can't be surprised anymore. All right, you ready to see what this screen looks like? They parked it because of hydraulic issues. See how that screen has been sucked down? Can you see all the gunk around the outside of that screen? The screen's doing its job. Oh, looky right there. That is, that's a piece of that paper filter. I bet we can dig some more of that out of there too. Yep. So there's part of that paper filter, and then just other gunk. The screen doing its job. See that? So it's all pre-pumped there to help protect the pump. And what happens is that stuff builds up. It literally will pull itself. You can see how much suction was on there. It pulled itself flat. So I got to see if I can get that screen off and fix it. Maybe I'll do some research and just find another one that'll do the job. But I'm not a betting man, but I think that's going to be their issue with why they're having hydraulic problems. So here's all the paper that came off that filter. I mean, it was completely covered. I can't see a way that that filter or that screen actually comes off. I'm wondering if a fella doesn't have to replace that whole part. Now, before we go buy new parts, I've got her cleaned off and straightened back out good enough to try to fire it up, I think. The inside of the tank, believe it or not, doesn't look terrible. One of those things, it's the same with the oil. We're just going to have to see if we can get this thing running. If it runs, go ahead and get some more filters, run this thing for like 10 hours, change the filters out, and maybe do that a few times. All right, pretty sure we spilled 27 gallons out of a 5-gallon can. You gotta love safety cans. That's the wrong size. Like a half, it's gonna be 9. So to get the air out of the filters, there's just a bleed screw right here. There's already fuel coming out of there, so that's good. There's some bubbles with it though. We'll wait till there's no bubbles. Then we'll tighten that down. Well, I don't know. At this point in time, like in my head, it runs, you know. So I was just double checking the book. There is a bleed screw right here on the side of the pump. We're gonna crack that. And then it says, crank the engine with the stop control lever out, which it's got, that's this right here. Back would be stop the engine, but there's already fuel coming out of it, so that's encouraging. Neutral here, and this should always be in neutral for reverse, but that's neutral, and then here's gear select neutral. The starter won't turn, or it's not supposed to turn if that's in gear. It's got a safety switch. Definitely pushing fluid or fuel out of there. Let's move up to the injector lines next. Oh, daggone it. We're going to want to flip the fuel shutoff lever this way. That's going to be key, I think. So I got all these bled off, all the injector lines. We've got fuel coming all the way back the return line and all the way back up into the tank. So that is awesome. Slipped into my evening wear here. It is chilly today, like 20 degrees, and you can hear the batteries winding down and getting pretty low on us. So we're not gonna try to turn her over today to finish this video off. We'll do it soon, I promise. I keep putting this off, and what I love about this stage is right now in my head it runs, right? If I turn the key, it might not. So we're just gonna end the day on a high note. Battery's over at the house. We're gonna put it on trickle charger, let it charge up for 3 days, because in 3 days it's gonna be back up in the 50s for us. That should hopefully kind of increase our odds. No, this tractor does not have glow plugs. It has a manifold heater, an intake heater, but I don't know if that works and I haven't tested it yet. So we'll just wait till it gets a little bit warmer and do it like that and give that battery plenty of time to get plenty of juice. I think we definitely found lots of issues. The bad piston is replaced. We've got new rings and new pistons, which is fantastic because all the oil rings on the old pistons were shot, so we're good there. Yes, we do have the old rod bearings on, but they weren't in bad shape, so I don't think that's gonna be an issue. A lot of you said in the comments, it's not a race car, okay? It's just a diesel, so we should be okay with that. Yes, the rod caps were facing the right way. I lost some clips, which is why we're having some audio issues. The GoPro's getting a little glitchy on me. I go through about a GoPro every 3 months. That just seems to be when, for me anyway, they kind of find the end of their natural cycle. So I did lose some clips, but yes, we used assembly grease. I'm putting those bearings on, and we did make sure that the caps matched and they're all oriented the same way, so that wasn't the issue at all. We got that step correct. Everything else was looking good. I think we definitely found the issue that they were having with the hydraulics. Hopefully it was just that screen being so dirty from an improperly installed filter that it was suction closed and it couldn't get the fluid. They said it was weak on hydraulic power. That would definitely cause that symptom. My only hope at this point is they didn't run it long enough to burn up that pump, but looking at the rest of the machine, there's a chance that they probably pushed it a little too far, but we'll get there when we get there. Now, as far as the big question is how much this thing has cost so far, $2,303 is what we're into this. That includes paying CNC equipment to truck this thing down here to us. That includes, of course, batteries, all the oil and filters, which we would have bought oil and filters with the hydraulic oil, the engine oil, the coolant, and all the filters. We would have bought all that if it was just a used machine we bought off Facebook anyway. That includes about $300 worth of tools, because why wouldn't you get some new tools to work on some of these projects? The crazy thing is, when it comes to actual parts that we replaced, it's only like $400 for the pistons, the injectors, and the thermostat. Everything else was pretty much fluids, filters, and transportation to get to us. And yeah, that is quite a bit of money, especially for us, but this thing came with 3 buckets. I could sell those 3 buckets and cover half of that at least, and run it across the scale and still come out ahead at this point. But I think we're pretty close to a running machine. And I know she's rough. She has a lot of character, as we like to say in the industry. There's just a whole lot of character going on with this thing, but I think this is all stuff we can fix as long as we can get that and that to be reliable for us. At that point, it's worth the time and money to put into this thing. I had one guy comment, this is why I don't like to work on junk. I don't like to work on junk either, but that's what my budget allows, is junk. So we're going to try to take something that is perceivably junk, I don't think I could argue that at this point in time, and try to make it something nice. This is going to be a long project, but worth it in the end. And also, somebody's going to say, well, you didn't include your time in that calculation. I don't know about you, but I'm at the stage in life where I've got more time than I do money, so I'm not really going to count that. We're just going to call it what it is and be fine with it. If you want to see more videos about this backhoe, check out this playlist over here. I'll try to put it up in a really cool box somewhere over here, and maybe another box that shows you the Subaru side-by-side project if you want to get caught up on that, because that's another fun project we're working on. Back on the YouTube yacht in the next video, because we've got to get everything ready to pour. I'd like to be poured by the end of the month. I appreciate you guys watching, as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.